suppose telling people to put it in their freezer so it doesn't smell up the place, doesn't go over big. What I used to do with the fish guts when I come home from fishing. Put them in the freezer.
So the garbage can?
Yep.
That day, yeah.
Now I have a tough wife. Wasn't my idea.
Mic check.
Jim, are you on?
Free? Yeah.
Mic check. Nothing's happening in mine.
You're 6. Marty, what's your
7.
7 and
Lucky 7.
your number 10? 10. Okay, John, talking to yours.
Testing.
He's on.
Jim, can you do?
Mic check.
Sure. Mine is on.
Dan, can you say something?
I'm here.
I'd like to thank the Academy. I can't hear you, Dan. Which one's 6? Okay.
Mic check.
You're really on.
Maybe I don't have to be so close to it. Well, computer says 6:59. The phone says 7, so we
Yep.
should get it loaded up. If we're here. Mr. Bruss is here. Mr. and Mrs. Sobczak are here. So we'll get it loaded up. Good evening. Today is Wednesday, October 13th, 2021. Welcome to the Village of Vernon Plan Commission meeting. I will call the Village Plan Commission to order with a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. We will start with the roll call and open meeting law compliance check.
President Carl Fortner.
Present.
Trustee Commissioner Jim Slaney.
Present.
Commissioners Dan Nowak and Mario Rinaldi.
Present.
And also note for the record, the Planning and Zoning Administrator Sean Malarkey is here. Mr. President, the agenda was posted inside and outside the Village Hall on the Village website to the media and also businesses within the Village of Vernon. You're in full compliance with the open meetings law.
Okay, thank you. First up on the agenda is discussion and possible action on the final certified survey map and termination of the Waukesha County conditional use permit for a riding arena and expansion of horse boarding for property owned by William and Christine Bruss. Mr. Bruss is here. Could you please come up? His property is located on Edgewood Avenue. We've had Mr. Bruss in Plan Commission for several meetings, let's say. Sean says 4. But we will let Sean kick it off, and then hopefully we'll get to some kind of conclusion tonight, which is a recommendation from the Plan Commission to the Village Board about your request, and then we will get it on the, if we do get a recommendation, get it on the next Village Board meeting, which is next week.
21st.
Oh, okay. At 7
Okay.
o'clock?
Yes.
But you won't be inside.
Oh, okay.
Sean, you want to kick us off?
Okay, I won't belabor this. Again, this is the 4th time it's been in front of us. Originally, conceptually, back in August of 2020, and made some changes. Conceptually, came back with a CSM in September. It was a 2-lot. Basically, now stands as a 2-lot CSM to create a lot for each of the 2 existing homes in the property. Lot 1 is 10 acres. Lot 2, which has river access, is 21.56 acres, measured to the river's edge. As mentioned, the petitioners also submitted a written request to terminate the existing conditional use on the property for the commercial stable. And so the reason there's 2 homes in the property is tied to that conditional use for the commercial stable. Both residents for both properties needed to be employed by the stable, and once that is terminated, the lots have to be legal, or the homes have to be legal on their own independent lots or removed. And so he's asking for the creation of the 2 lots and termination of the conditional use. Last time, the reason it was tabled was basically to clean up some of the comments that our surveyor had on the CSM. I had a couple comments related to notes on the CSM as well, and then we also asked him to move the dividing lot line between the properties so that each sanitary system was on its own, was on the respective lot, and that the pond was no longer split by the lot line, so that the ponds are each now on independent lots so that they can be maintained independently. So I don't have a lot of comments here. It's cleaned up pretty nicely. The only comment that I want to make here is that there's a note or a couple of notes on the CSM now based on our direction regarding the development rights. And the way it's written now is basically that there's 2 notes. One says there's remaining development rights for each lot. There's 1 development right on lot 1 and 3 development rights on lot 2. That's a function of the zoning, right? So the density for the whole overall property is RRD5, which if you take the whole property and divide it by 5, that tells you how many hypothetical lots you can develop, and so we have to assign them somewhere, and so that's the idea behind that. So one of the notes in the CSM talks about development rights. The second note talks about prohibiting any new lots without proper frontage and access from a public road, ensuring conformance with the village zoning and land division ordinance, and that the lots may be limited by environmental constraints. I'd also note that a separate deed restriction is also going to be required for each of these lots that speak to those development rights as well. We discussed this after the meeting. The attorney, the village president, and I, in terms of cleaning that note up just a little bit, we think it should be combined for clarity, and so it should read as follows. There's 1 remaining development right on lot 1 and 3 remaining development rights on lot 2 per the existing RRD5 rural residential zoning district, and may not be achievable due to environmental constraints in the property, including wetland, floodplain, high groundwater, and environmental corridor. Further land division is prohibited unless new lots have proper frontage, lot width, and access on a public road, and meet all other village zoning and land division ordinance requirements. So we think that's clear. It's all tied together, and it sort of sets the stage going forward, so everyone has clear expectations. The only other comment I'll make is that there's basically a waiver that's required as part of this, and that's based on the shape of the lots, the configuration of the lots. They're a little excessive in terms of depth to width. Normally we require a 2-to-1, generally require a 2-to-1 depth to width ratio, and then the shape of the lots is also a little odd, and that's only because we're getting around the sanitary systems. And so as part of the motion for approval of this, there's a waiver that's part of that as well. We talked a little bit about that last time. The conditional use termination, I'm recommending that they happen at the same time so that the termination of the conditional use goes hand in hand with the recording of the certified survey map. The conditional use needs to be terminated by deed restriction as well, or recorded on the property as well. And so the petitioner talked about delaying the termination of the conditional use until they're ready. And so simply once this is approved, once the CSM is approved, once the conditional use termination is approved, you just have to wait, just record the CSM whenever you're ready for all your borders to be out of the...
They're out already.
And so, okay. So whenever you're ready, just do them at the same time. It'll happen simultaneously, and then there will be no issues with that. You so going forward, just make it known that you can no longer use the property as a commercial stable once the conditional use is terminated. We're also requesting that a deed restriction be put on the property just based on the size and extent of all the buildings, that none of them can be used for commercial purposes as well. You can still have horses on the property, but only for residential purposes according to the size of the property. So one for the first 3 acres and then a horse for each additional acre that you have after that, whatever that works out to. Our surveyor had a couple of other very minor technical requirements here, but we're recommending that if this is approved, that's something that can be cleaned up before signature on the certified survey map. So that's all I have.
Wasn't there also a note on, because there's a shared a well easement?
There is a shared well. There's one well out there between the properties. There's a note referencing an access agreement for that. The way it stands now, the way the certified survey map is that the access agreements and the well agreement they're not recorded as part of the CSM. They're referenced as separate documents that will be recorded at time of change of ownership of one or the other lot. And so right now, when the lots are created, the petitioner will own both lots. But as soon as one or the other lot is sold, at that time, those agreements are recorded, one for the well and then the access agreement as well. So yes.
Mr. Rush, did you follow all of that? Do you agree with all that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
There was a lot there.
Yeah.
So we'll start with you, and then we'll make sure that all the plan commissioners understand as well. Do you follow? Everybody follow along? Okay, and then questions for Sean, I guess.
The only question I had was about access to that lot 2. I know that goes across lot 1.
Right, you weren't at the last meeting, right? Yeah, we did have some discussion about that. Attorney Macy has made it known that he doesn't recommend that. We talked about it at the last meeting. The rationale that the Plan Commission came to is that it's a unique situation based on 2 existing homes, obviously self-created by the petitioner. However, the Plan Commission felt it would not be setting a precedent for allowing the creation of new lots that didn't have access because of the unique situation. If someone came forward with a vacant property and wanted two houses and one of them couldn't get access because of wetlands, for instance, that obviously would be denied, but this is recognizing an existing situation.
If I remember right, that driveway goes right through the 2 ponds there.
Right, splits them, correct.
You got an easement for each party here, probably, right?
Yeah, and the attorney was clear that he doesn't want the easement as part of the certified survey map. It's referenced here, but it's recorded by a separate document. It's up to them to figure that out.
Right, so what's referenced in the CSM will be the access agreement for the shared driveway, but it'll be referenced into a different document.
Just saying it
And also,
exists.
The shared well, again, it'll be referenced as a separate document.
Correct.
When, in each case, I suppose, when those lots are
When one or the other is sold.
sold, right? So, and that's part of the conditions as well, I would assume.
Those are notes that are already embedded into the CSM.
Embedded already in what's been, what's been submitted. So those go. You reworded, and we've talked about it, like you said, you reworded the development rights. You've read them again, so, I mean, I think.
Is it clear? Does that clear? I know you had some concerns about
Right,
it
that's clear
originally.
for me, anyway, clear for the commission. That's a little bit different than the way you worded it, so we should adopt it as you've, if we're going to approve this as,
So one of the first condition of approval for the CSM would be satisfy all comments, conditions, concerns of the Plan Commission, board, planner, and surveyor. So clean up the surveyor's technical comments and then add that as my comment as well.
should we add a village attorney to that list, in particularly because of all these notes on the certified?
Yeah, that's something we talked about as well, just so that he can have one final review to make sure, before it gets signed, to make sure that the comments, it wouldn't come back to the Plan Commission, but just make sure that they're in proper form.
Right.
So I can
Yeah,
add the attorney's
To me, it's pretty clear. I mean, we talked about that, Mr. Bruss, at the last meeting. Remember the development rights, and you said you're choosing to put them on us the way you've chosen to do it. So,
Yeah, we did what
yeah.
we thought just,
Right,
made the most sense.
right. Yeah, that was your decision. I don't know the village cares one way or the other. It
Right,
just needs
and-
to be clarified, and I'd want the note. That's why I was saying about Attorney Macy, because that note needs to be
I agree.
clear to you, clear to your buyer, clear to a seller, clear to the village.
And I want to make it clear that for them to actually realize all those development rights is probably not going to happen based on but who knows in the future, things change, wetland boundaries change, floodplains change. The property is zoned what it is, so he should preserve those rights with the caveat that it may never be developed that way.
Sean, you said during your introduction there, again, questioning RRD 5, you mentioned the wetlands. Does the amount of property that's not buildable due to wetlands, is that taken away from the total?
It doesn't factor into the zoning. That zoning code does not discriminate against. It's just gross density. So what it assumes then, basically, if you develop your property and you have a bunch of wetlands, it assumes you're going to create lots and then preserve the environmental corridor, preserve the wetlands or farmland if that's what's on your property. So it doesn't penalize you for having wetlands or floodplain.
This, in this packet, we don't see the septic blob that we had last month. I assume it's to the east of the building where the bump out is on this,
On the newer house or the bigger
on
house?
lot 1.
You don't see the blob, but you see the vents and the covers that are noted on page. It's on page sheet 3 of 6.
Yeah, that had, well,
You can see the well and then the vents and then
I saw
the
the little
covers there.
circles in the
That's
letters.
what
I
it
didn't
is.
know what they stood for.
that's exactly what it is.
Okay.
Yeah, the little circles with the V in them for vents, right? Right, and the little W is the well.
The well and the S are the sanitary covers, I believe.
Yes, and so now those have been divided, just like we had discussed at our last meeting. It's divided and so that the lot 1 has its septic and,
Right.
right, lot 2 has its septic. And the pond is all on lot 2, like we discussed. One of the ponds is on lot 2, I should say.
One is on and the other,
The
yeah,
other one is on the other lot in its entirety,
right.
so it's not divided in somewhere in the middle.
The question we had, at some point, that septic's gonna fail. It will at some point. If that happens, is it gonna be a big deal to come back and get the line straight?
You can adjust the lot line without even coming back to it. Well, you have to come back to us, but you don't have to necessarily do a new CSM. You can adjust.
Oh, so,
You can basically exchange land between property owners. We still have to look at it to make sure the setbacks are all in order and so on, but it doesn't have to be done through certified survey map.
okay.
Yeah, that's an exception to the CSM is,
Right.
Is-
If you're not creating new lots,
so long as you're
not,
not creating 2 lots, 2 neighbors, and they're just exchanging land.
but we still look at it. Still has to come to us to look at it.
I'd prefer to have it a straight line, at some point. And
But the pond is still going to be an issue. We're still not going to want to go through.
is the pond something that's a deal breaker, or, because you had said it, I thought we were kind of just going around the pond because we were already going around the septic.
No, I mean, they kind of go hand in hand, but the idea behind the pond is that it's, we got to
But who-
maintain those at some point and do things, and it's split down the middle. It's whose responsibility is it?
Okay. So you're gonna probably gonna always want it at least jogging around there then.
I think so. Unless you fill the pond, I don't know if that's possible.
I don't know. Guess that's a question for the DNR.
Right, that's
Well, that pond is, it's outside of the wetlands, right? It's
barely.
but the way it's drawn is outside the wetlands. I mean, what function does it serve?
It was a man-made pond.
Right, it was dug. It would require engineering review at the very least to fill it in. So,
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, I guess.
I guess we
It wasn't
can
arch.
cross that bridge if you feel strongly about it later on.
Yeah, probably depend more on if somebody wants to buy the lot, if they're gonna feel like it's got this big chunk out of it. That's the way it looks,
Yeah, but that portion of the property is not really usable. The usable part is back where it widens out anyways.
Yeah.
Other questions? Yes.
We talked about village attorney approval or review. Is that part of condition one?
I'm going to add it to condition 1. Yep.
So you're going to add that to condition 1. We're going to say condition number 4 is discussed in tonight's meeting, right? And you're going to change that to how you presented it tonight? This is the development rights.
Well, I'm not going to change condition 4. I mean, condition 1 talks about satisfying the planner comments,
Okay.
so that incorporates it there.
That would incorporate
Right.
number 4.
Right. And when he makes the changes, I'm going to review it to make sure that is in there before
Okay.
I say pass it on to Attorney Macy, and then he does his review, and then he tells you it's good to sign.
Okay. Other questions? Comments? Anything for Mr. Bruss? Mr. Bruss, you got anything for us? You heard all the conditions, you're in agreement?
Yep.
No commercial, all of that?
So there's 2 action items. One is the conditional use termination.
Right. And there it's pretty clear, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
There it's pretty clear it's going to be recorded simultaneously with the CSM.
Right. And
So
then the
they
certified
both go
survey
in
map
together, right?
has the waiver in the motion for the regular shape of the lots, along with
Or is it in there? Okay, good.
recommending approval of the CSM to the village board.
The 2 conditions.
The plan commission grants the waiver, doesn't recommend the waiver.
Okay, so we're granting, for so inclined, we'll grant the waiver and recommend to the village board to approve as,
The CSM, right?
approve the CSM with the conditions as stated. And you'll change the first one.
modified, right?
As stated and modified.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
You have enough, Karen? to-
Yep, yes.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
So that was both. That was both the items.
That was both items, right? Well, you can come and visit us next year if you
Congratulations.
wanna. If you miss us, you can come in next year maybe or something.
So just have your surveyor clean up those couple of comments on there based on the staff report. Do you have a copy of the staff report?
I don't think I have the
I
one for
emailed
this meeting. Did you?
You email it to him?
I'll
may-
email it again.
Yeah, send it to me again.
Okay.
Maybe I-
Obviously, have him contact me if there's any questions. Once that's back in, I'll take a quick look at it. We'll pass to the attorney, and then after that, it can be signed and recorded.
Okay, and I need to come to the meeting on Monday.
Does he have to be at the board
You
meeting?
don't have to be there,
Oh, I don't have to be.
unless you want him there. I think Jim and Carl can handle it.
Right. We'll have a recommendation to the board.
You're welcome to come, but
You're welcome to come though, yeah.
That's not necessary. Okay. So I need to get my surveyor to make those couple changes.
and I'll email that to you tonight, Bill.
Right, including the new language on the,
Well, what Sean does is modified it, and then I'll send them both,
Yeah, I'll modify the staff report first thing in the morning.
and then
She'll
I'll
send it
email
back
it to you tomorrow. Okay, Bill?
All right, very good.
We'll miss you, Bill.
thank you.
We'll miss you.
Thanks for your patience.
All right, next up is Plan Commission review of a 14 by 55 addition to an existing 42 by 66 accessory building for property owned by Jeff and Caroline Subcheck, who are here on Sand Hill Ridge Road. This addition will require Plan Commission review and approval. Mr. and Mrs. Subcheck. Jeff, you just, well, at least I know who you are, but just state your name and address for the record, please. Thanks.
Jeff Subcheck, West 256, South 10399. Sand Hill Ridge Road, Mukwonago, Wisconsin, 53149.
Okay, Sean, you want to kick us off?
Sure. This is a little over 16-acre property at the end of the road, at the end of Sand Hill Ridge Road, zone RRD5, same as the last property we talked about. He currently has a detached garage in the property, and he's looking to add an addition to it. It's a 14-foot by 55-foot addition, which is 770 square feet. The existing building is 2,772 square feet. He'll have a total of 3,542 square feet. And any building over 3,000 square feet or more comes to the Plan Commission for approval. So the addition pushes him over the edge. What he's doing with it is it's tucked behind the building. The roof, it's only 14 feet tall, so it's not as tall as the rest of the building. It's kind of a lean-to that's attached. The edges of the building, the addition are also brought in a little bit so that they're to hide a little bit of the visibility. Property is fairly well screened from all sides. You may see the existing accessory building from the end of the road. It might be visible from surrounding properties in the winter. If you can see through some of the where there's no evergreen trees. So there might be some visibility. It meets all the requirements of zoning, quantity, size, location, et cetera, et cetera. The only
Setbacks.
setbacks, height, all those things are in line. Essentially, what you're looking at tonight is section 125-10 sub C 4 of the code says the Plan Commission considers whether the requested building would be consistent with the general intent of the chapter, whether the request would adversely affect property owners in the surrounding area, and any other facts that may be relevant to the application. Upon consideration of these factors, but without necessarily making affirmative findings thereon, the Village Plan Commission should determine whether the accessory building application is objectively reasonable. So you're looking at the property in context, and it's a big building, right? 3,000 square feet and above is a big building, making sure it doesn't have an adverse impact on the surroundings. So if you choose to approve it, I do have a series of conditions. One of is a deed restriction in a form approved by the village attorney, giving notice that the use of the building may not be used for commercial or industrial purposes. So that's all I got.
Thank you. And in the interest of full disclosure, they are my neighbors. I live on the same street as they do. Our properties, there's a little piece that it touches to each other.
We feel sorry for him.
I do.
Well, there's been a lot of people who've moved out of our neighborhood, surrounding my house, of course. Nobody else has, no, just kidding. I am on our architectural control committee along with two of our other residents, so,
Has this been approved right here?
Well,
Not part of the subdivision.
yeah, he is not, lives on our subdivision road, but his property is not not deed restricted under our subdivision deed restrictions. Did I say that right?
Yeah, I just use the subdivision as access to our property. That's where the access was on the property. when we
Right.
Purchased it, that's it.
Which is a public road.
Yeah, it's a public road. Yeah, it's a temporary cul-de-sac and, yeah.
Although we have, in the interest of being good neighbors to the subdivision, we have put the ridiculously expensive light posts up, mailboxes. We didn't go and put a Billy Bass up like the person that developed the subdivision was afraid we would do. We've gone out of our way when we planted trees to plant 20-foot evergreens in. When the trees lose their leaves, we have berms that hide everything. As you can see from the pictures that were provided to you, or if anybody came out, there's no possible visible effect of this to the road or anybody else in the subdivision. We do not conduct a business out of there, as you see in the rest of the pictures. For 32 years, our business has been in the Village of Big Bend Industrial Park, and that's where it's gonna stay until we sell. Or retire, which brings us to the purpose of building this building, is because right now, we have to have a skid steer with a snow blower on to take care of the huge driveway. With having this big commercial private motor coach that we own, it has to get through there. We can't have big mounds on the side because it'll tear it up. The coach and the trailer for the coach fill up the entire building, as you can see by the pictures. Once we sell the business property, we will no longer have access to put the other equipment that we utilize for the property indoors, which is what we're setting ourselves up to do. And we're not changing any stormwater runoff because we're taking a hard-packed asphalted area and we're putting a roof over it. So we're affecting no stormwater runoff. You can't hear it, see it, smell it, feel it from anywhere in the subdivision. And that's how we've always done stuff to try to be a good neighbor for the subdivision. And I think sometimes people get that confused that we are the subdivision, but we're not.
Your neighbors appear very happy.
No. We try to be neighbors, but, you know, not everybody's vision that people have are the same, okay? So, we just feel this is, you know, unfortunately, at the end of our subdivision, there's a house that is in the middle of nowhere, in a cornfield, with no screening, no nothing, and they put up, I'm guessing it's a 3,000 square foot building, right in their front yard. We just feel a better way to try to do that is spend 2/3 more money to get 1/3 less space and put it in a spot that nobody's gonna see. That's all we're asking for. I mean, I guess what we could do is not try to do that and just do what we're required, is to put that 3,000 square foot building up where we're allowed to without having to come for any kind of planning commission meeting approval. But we're not trying to do that. We're trying to do what we feel is the proper thing.
Yeah, and I live there. As far as I can tell, you've never driven other than if you've got a job back there, and I think you have a dump truck or anything. I've never seen any commercial
No, we don't.
vehicles.
We don't.
We're gonna put a deed restriction. Do you agree with that on no commercial industrial?
We don't, when we're done working, we're done.
Yeah.
But, yeah, no, I don't think that is, but how does that affect somebody else that would buy the property after we pass on?
There's a deed restriction on it, Mr. Subject, that when you all accessory buildings get that, so that when a property is sold, it puts the property owner on notice that it can't be used for commercial. There's also a deed restrictions if animals can or cannot be used.
Yeah. Anything over 900 square feet gets a no commercial deed restriction.
Right.
Just so people are aware, you can't
Right.
run a business
Well,
out
I
of
have
it.
no intent of doing that. I don't need more work, I want less work. So,
Well, we've had people come in here and we've said that, just like Sean said, and then, well, I didn't know that, you know? So we just want to make sure that people understand that that's going to be on their deed and it's for the purpose of not putting a potential buyer when you sell your property, hopefully many years from now, on notice that they can't use it for commercial or industrial purposes.
no,
It's
I
residential,
believe
so.
the town of Vernon at the time, when we did the building, or the whole property, it was mapped out for future development, and that's why the drive was put in where it is. Because if the farm behind our property develops, they might not get enough access to go out to the road. They may have to come through there, and there's the future planning shows in addition to the subdivision going to the next part. So that's why they had us move everything to the right as you're entering
To
the
the north,
driveway.
right.
Because that could be taken from us in the event we wouldn't come to an agreement.
Probably not taken, but that's the path of a road that would come through there.
Right. So we dealt with that, we just moved to the other side, you know?
A little drier over on that side too, on the north side.
Yeah,
It's wet on the south side.
yep.
When you go camping, you must really go camping pretty nice. That's a really nice piece of
It's
equipment.
called glamping.
Yeah,
That's what
glamping.
we've been told. No, we purchased the 17 acres with intent of one day being able to do that, and that's what the intent of the building is. We don't have, as Carl can tell you as well as anybody else, we don't have trucks that come in and out of the
Right.
subdivision, other than to help somebody in the subdivision.
Right. And I think that's important to the neighbors. They don't want to see the trucks or any subdivision. I shouldn't just personalize it to just because I live there or this particular, but any subdivision would not be happy with that. You know, trucking going in and out or any commercial operation coming in and out. even though you're not subject to the deed restrictions, you're still on a subdivision road, even though your lot is 16 acres. We do have that one lot in our subdivision because, you know, they were meeting zoning or number of lot size, and as Dan and Jim know, it's an average, and he uses
Right, right.
he uses his 20 acres as part of the average, so that, you know, he gets a bunch of threes in a 20 acre, and they all average to 5, you know. So,
And I know Mr. Subcheck stated too, the building that he has in Big Bend can house up to 40 pieces of equipment. 14 pieces of equipment. So, and I don't, are you even at capacity, Jeff, at that building with all the trucking?
We used to be, we are not now, and we've slimmed down. We could put 40 trucks out on a daily basis before. Business has changed, loyalties have changed. We don't need to do that. Really don't even need to maintain the business. But the core of our employees, probably 10 of them, have been there 20-plus years.
Right.
We feel we owe it to them. Unless somebody comes up and can do something better than we can do for them, we're still there. Until we can't do it no more.
so, and as far as this particular, it's an addition, and you won't see it from the road, as far as I can tell.
Won't see it.
Period. The addition part, you can see your main building,
No.
but the addition you won't be able to see.
No.
It's behind the
I moved
building.
it back so when we drive up, it's even more aesthetically appealing to us, so we just see the one front as we see now. That's
Yeah,
put back
right.
10 feet,
Right.
and you can't even see that from the road or any adjoining property, nor can you see the back corner.
Well,
because it's moved
I can
back.
see it if I go all the way back to the corner, but that's
Well,
no big
yeah,
deal.
And you gotta climb
No.
some 500 feet of woods, but,
Yeah, it's no big deal.
right. Hey, there's a picture in there that shows the area where we're covering. It's still gotta look better than that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And Jeff and Carolyn, I just want to let you know that all the pictures that you brought in the Plan Commission all has all those pictures.
Okay.
I just wanted to state that for the record. And the comments from the neighbors.
Yeah, or if you have any questions, please ask.
Yeah, questions?
We have a restriction on the number of toys a person can have.
Not in
How
Vernon.
big the toys could be?
Not fair.
That is a big RV when you take it out. You know, we notice it, but it's when you're,
Don't go out very often.
yeah, you're either taking it someplace fun or maybe for servicing,
Not
but,
as
you know,
often as we like.
right.
Well, that's what we're trying to work on changing. But yes.
When Jeff's knees get better? Oh, okay.
Yeah, and we don't have to work with that every single day. No, there's a sign that's being made for the building that says, the only difference between men and a boy are the size of their toys.
Cost. It's really the cost of the toys.
John, this addition is only 770 some feet. Why do we care? I thought we really only cared about,
You only care about 3,000 and above, but because it's attached to the other building, it's all part of it. It bumps the existing building over 3,000 because it's
I
attached.
thought the other one was already over.
No,
No.
Okay,
but if it was, it would still come back
it's still, oh,
because it's larger.
Right, so the existing one was what, 2772?
Something like that.
You know, put up with the building permit, you located it as you described why you located it. And so this will put you over the 3,000.
Right. So
But even
once-
if you started out with 3,000 and you went, let's say you were at 3,200, you got approval, put another 800 to
Still has to
4,000,
come
you
back.
still have to come back. Right.
And that new section only has a 10-foot tall door because keeping the roof lines in for aesthetic reasons. It's not gonna, tallest thing I'll get in there is my enclosed snowmobile trailer. But, you know, I gained the availability to put the small stuff like the tractors, but my tractors aren't small, they're big, okay, to do that. And then the snow blower and stuff, I can put that in. As you can see in the pictures, there just is no room with those two monster vehicles in that other building.
Did you hear that, Jeff?
Right.
Well, wait till she wants that new Corvette going out. See how that'll go.
No, I thought the rules, if you buy a new one, you gotta sell an old one.
What?
He said if you wanna buy a new one, you have to sell something first.
Give it to your neighbor, right?
Yeah, give it to your neighbor.
And the building he's referring to is on Maple Avenue. And, yeah, it's a problem for our neighbors. I don't notice it so much, but it's, you know,
Not something I would wanna do, but.
Right.
Besides that, I mean.
right, I think,
That's what the regulations stipulate you do. And I'm just trying to say, with our going along like we always do, we try to be a good neighbor to the subdivision.
right, you've minimized the impacts to it, really is what you're saying. And you tried to blend in, although I'm not sure I would have done what you did with those light posts, but anyway, that's a different issue. Further questions? Yeah, the only concern that I personally have nothing with regards to your, how you've been a good neighbor and no commercial traffic, and we're going to have a deed restriction on that. It's not going to increase traffic or the size of any vehicles or anything like that in our subdivision. I don't see anything, you can't see it from the road. I don't see any issues with regards to any of that. It's just, and maybe it's our ordinance, that these buildings are getting bigger and bigger. And whether you're part of a subdivision, but if you're using a subdivision road, if you're not technically part of a deed restriction, you're certainly part of the subdivision. I mean, your neighbors, so, but that's more of a issue on the ordinances. But that would be my only concern, not with them particular or this particular addition whatsoever. It's just generally these buildings are getting bigger and bigger, and there's, they're smaller, and, when we delineate it by acres, 1 acre and 1 to 2 and 2 to 3, for the smaller lots. But if you've got a big lot next to a bunch of smaller lots, you can have a big building, and that might be a problem with the subdivision, the ordinance, that we have allowing that, so.
You should look at some of the other big buildings that are already installed in Vernon on big lots, 32-acre lots, 16-acre lots.
Yeah, there's some big
They're
buildings.
mammoth. They're a lot bigger than that.
But here, the safety net is it has to come to the plan commission, and so you
Right.
get to look at compatibility with, if someone's got 40 acres next to a subdivision and wants to put a giant building right next to someone's house, you can say wrong location
Right.
or screen it with landscaping, or that's the reason to come to the plan commission, is that discretion of, what
Well,
it
and
looks like.
and the other issue there too is if you, in your hypothetical, this is not you, you're getting caught up in a more of a generalized discussion, but if you got 40 acres and you do that, and then you come in 5 years later with the CSM, and now everybody's got a 3-acre lot, well, now you're asking for a waiver for this giant building. Well, that isn't right either under our ordinance.
Doesn't have to be granted.
That's true. But that's another issue with the ordinances, where it might be perfectly permissible and meets the standards today, but when you put it, subdivide it up, all of a sudden they're in here looking for a waiver.
The alternative would be is to approve if you felt strongly about a specific case that came in and say, hey, we're going to approve this building, it's a monster, but you're not going to redivide this, so please put a restriction on your property for no further division.
No, you could take away development rights is
Right,
what
you could do that if
suggesting.
you felt strongly about it, yeah.
Right, part of this discussion is I don't want to set a precedent and that anybody just can come in and say, well, it's going to get approved or whatever. And I think in this particular case, I'm not sure that it is going to set a precedent. I just want to make that clear for the record. Because I'm concerned about that too.
See, we have a couple letters from neighbors. that
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
have to go through the records or read them.
It's not really, this isn't a public hearing or comments. Those neighbors just wanted to, for the record, they're close to Mr. and Mrs. Subject's property. They wanted to let the Plan Commission know, full disclosure, that they had no problem with Mr.
Right.
and Mrs. Subject's
Those
request.
are the two neighbors that live
One,
in and out all the time and back right up to our house.
right, that's right. These two, yes, that's right. One neighbor lives adjacent to you, and the other neighbors lives three
Straight
houses.
out their driveway.
Yeah, straight out the
Straight in
driveway.
the driveway.
Three houses down, right,
Yeah,
right.
You do have a beautiful property. That's a,
thank you.
I mean, it's very nice.
Right, and our architectural control committee gave an email notice to the subdivision. So that might have what have generated some of this, but it's good to hear support, from our neighbors, I guess. Other questions?
I move to approve or recommend to the board, the board approves.
The
hang on
plan
just a
commission
second.
approves.
Jim, with the
Just a
9
second.
conditions as stated by the planner?
So just to be clear, it's the plan commission approves.
Right, I'm
Okay.
on the plan commission, so yeah.
Okay.
With the conditions that are listed.
Right.
Jeff, you did get those, didn't you? The planner comments? I'm gonna re-email them. I mean,
I can quickly go over them. It's basically constructed according to the plans that have been submitted.
Right.
Limited to the size that you said is going to be, 770 square feet. Abide by the height requirements, which it is. Abide by the zoning requirements, which it is. Construct in a way that's compatible with the principal building. Record the deed restriction, not to be used for commercial or industrial purposes. The building inspector has a right to recertify the location with respect to setbacks and offsets. If there's a question about, hey, is it meeting the side offset of 20 feet? You know what I mean? And there probably won't be, but it's in there. Obtain the appropriate permits, which is a zoning permit, which I'll issue the next couple of days, and then the building permit that you'll need from Vince, and then reimbursement of any professional fees and expenses. So those are the conditions.
And the Waukesha County review
The-
was already done.
The preliminary site evaluation, yeah, that's fine. Yep.
Yeah, and it's really, Jeff, is what you submitted. So if there's changes to what you submit, like in the building process, I want to do it differently, that
You have to come back.
you got to come back.
Yeah,
So
there isn't,
It's simple, right? It's just, yeah.
yeah,
yeah,
gotta
Jeff,
work with what's there.
Right.
So
right.
you construct what you have to meet what you already have.
and Jeff's been meeting with Vince Budiak, the building inspector, so there's,
Yeah, I started
Great
arguing with him
communication.
After a while, I have a good rapport with him. And we had a hell of a time trying to construct a fence to go around our in-ground pool. And, I just say, hey Vince, can you swing by instead of, I don't wanna do it and then find out it's wrong and then we argue about it.
right,
Right.
So he just says, you got a question, you call me.
yep.
Right. So it's number 6 is the deed restriction. So it's, that's why we bring that up special. So do you understand then? I have to ask this. Do you understand? I think you do. All the 9 conditions? I'm not trying to,
Yes, no, who is the deeded restriction about the commercial use put on the property by me, by you? or-
I do that.
Karen,
I-
too.
So I don't have to do nothing with that. That's the only thing.
Doesn't he have to sign it?
Yeah, I'll get it to you ahead of time so you and Caroline can read it just to make sure, but it just puts everybody on notice that, you're not gonna run I know you guys would never, but if somebody buys your property afterwards.
Right.
Because a lot of times people see a building that size, they think, wow, I could do a cabinet shop and I could do a.
Right. Well, yeah, I'm not, like I say, I'm not concerned about you. It's
Right,
the
no.
next person.
Right.
My daughter-in-law tells me that she's not building another house, she's just waiting for ours after we're gone.
Sounds like a plan.
So,
Well, tell her she can't open a business.
Well,
no, they won't.
the simple answer is it's not for you, honey. It's for my great-grandchildren. So not your children, their children.
I know trustee, Commissioner Solani did make the motion. Was there a second? No, I'll second. Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion made and seconded with the 9 conditions for plan commission approval of your addition to your accessory building as submitted. Further discussion, I think the initial discussion, I wanted to make clear that it wasn't setting any precedent value. I think what I'm just going to do, since I'm your neighbor, and I'll just abstain from voting and let these guys vote on it. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Got it. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Subject. We'll get everything ready.
Thank you. Thanks for coming down.
Yep.
Okay, we are on number 6, ordinance priority update list and comprehensive plan update. Sean?
Karen put this on the agenda. I don't have anything to add. She said there might be a couple questions that, the comprehensive plan update, obviously, we're not doing anything with that for now.
Right.
We may address that, but we did talk about the ordinance updates. Had a number of meetings, from the village board staff meeting, to the board meetings, to the plan commission meetings. She said it was authorized to proceed with the ordinance updates, but there might have been a couple questions.
Just a clarification on that sign issue, remember?
Oh, yeah.
We just wanted, there was a few,
Think about what that is.
and I explained to the village board, whenever you or Vince or I, we see any issues related to the zoning code, it's jotted down.
Right. Was it signage? Was it the signage issue?
Yeah, remember the three issues,
We had Mr. Kluman here with the sign, that sign issue.
Mr. Klum, the
Yeah,
five-star
the
energy.
size of his sign was
Right.
one.
And
Big Ben Elementary, remember the Big Ben Elementary? They had the big letters on the school. And the
Right,
sign.
and there's also the temporary signage.
temporary signage,
The
you know,
Citizens
whether
Bank.
it's a Citizen Bank, because it's off-premises signage.
Right.
Right? And it's,
We wanted to clarify that, you could, those certain types of signs, real estate signs, limited to a certain size, are permissible and not considered an off-premise sign for the purpose of the ordinance.
because they're temporary, we could draft it tightly if you'd like, it
Right,
has to
so-
do something with the project, it's got to be less than 6 months, or whatever we
Yeah,
come
so,
up with.
so
right?
we'll propose some language for that. We'll propose some language. My biggest concern was the limit on the square footage of signage for commercial and industrial use is really tiny. I mean, it's just super restrictive. I'm not saying open it wide open, but again, the sign for the five-star energy, we got a worse sign because our sign was, they were looking to do individual letters and logos that were backlit, and now, because that was so small, we just got a plastic vinyl sign that's backlit, and so we could have got a nicer sign out of it if we allowed more size. And so there should be an allowance for multiple sides of the building. If your building faces multiple roads, you should have an opportunity to put signage on both sides, for instance. Like I said, I'm not looking to open up a can of worms and make it wide open, but I think we can massage it a little bit to allow a little more signage for commercial industrial properties.
Right, in a commercially zoned area,
Right.
general
That's
business
right.
area.
That's right.
That's where we're
Yeah.
talking about.
We're not talking about 400 square foot signs. We're just talking about a little bump signage on two sides.
It depend on the size of the building, wouldn't it?
And that's what we could do
Got one of
too.
the real
Yeah.
long guys.
Yeah.
Well, we don't currently do it that way. We currently just, and so I agree. I think we should make it on the size of the building should get a bigger sign than if it's a tiny building. Yeah.
Right.
So
Can you come back with some recommendations on that?
yeah. For the whole ordinance, all the ordinance changes we talked about, we talked about the landscaping, the architectural requirements. We talked about the signs. We talked about moving things over from chapter 144 into the zoning.
Right, parking lots.
Yeah, parking lot. I'm going to bring it all back and we're going to go through it. And,
There's a long list.
Okay.
Right.
Sean, are you going to address the dog issue?
No. What dog issue?
Remember we wanted to change the number of dogs in the zoning code from 2 to 3? Well,
And take out, and
Well,
take,
that was an option. The other one is just to get rid of the kennel license altogether.
well, we'd have commercial kennel license, but this hobby kennel,
Right.
you'd get rid of that.
Is that
and
in the
just
zoning
bump
or
it
is that
to
a
three.
different section?
Bump it to 3 dogs and say that's it.
We could do that.
I mean, there's a,
I'll talk to you about that.
You can't have 4
Correct,
unless you have a commercial.
right. That's what it
License.
would be bumping to, right?
well, all I know is the previous board felt really strongly, they felt 2 dogs was way too restrictive. Or 3, if you had any more than 2.
But if you want to have 6, you don't have to have a hobby kennel license?
You do, right?
You should, because a hobby kennel is different than a commercial kennel license. Because you're breeding hobby
So are
kennels.
you saying 3 dogs should be no hobby license for 3 dogs, but anything above
That's what
3?
the board had talked about previously. is
Over 3.
Over
Yeah.
3 is yeah.
Anything over free, they have 3 free, 3.
Well, yeah, we discussed quite a bit, whether the 2 was too small
Right.
and whether there should even be hobby kennels at all, where you just say it's 3 and that's it, and you have to go to commercial after that, although commercial is a little bit more with the breeding and the
So-
kenneling, overnight kenneling or even during the day kenneling. I mean, that's more of a commercial as opposed to a guy likes a lot of dogs. But, to me, again, there's got to be a limit somehow. And maybe it depends on where your property is and how big it is and how much they bark and everything else.
Well,
But,
we don't know
these
that
people
until
who come in-
afterwards. So,
Yeah, that's what I mean. When
Yeah.
people come in here, to me, it's just crazy. I mean, we spent more on that than, some of these other matters
You have one
that are
coming.
much more important.
You have
So-
one coming in December.
So,
So that wasn't something we originally talked about in the update, but we certainly could do that
Right.
if there's,
But that's all it's meant to, you're gonna start working on it and then bring it to the Plan Commission, because Plan Commission's really gonna do the brunt of it. The
probably
review.
if we
well,
don't,
all the zoning and all of that, chapter 144, that's plan commission stuff, right?
it's all Plan Commission, yeah. So I would get you a draft ahead of time, read it through, we'd go through it, talk, just like we've done in the past for that stuff.
Right.
And it'll take a couple meetings probably to get through it.
You have some things that are just statutory, right? That you just go ahead and make the changes and bring it to us.
Well, some of the things, I think we had variances on there and we had legal non-conforming uses, and some of that is statutory, basically. Say,
Right.
hey, the law's changed since the code was written, and so,
Right.
Right.
these are the things we have to have in there, yes.
Right, legal non-conforming uses.
So I'll point those out, that it's statutory, but
Well, before you spend a lot of time on some that aren't statutory, because you would know how to handle it else, I wanted to have you come in and actually talk with us about it to get the direction from the board on what we wanted to see, if we haven't done that yet.
well, we've talked about it generally. I mean, we've talked about all these things. We've talked about the signs, right? We've talked about bringing stuff over from chapter 144 into the zoning in terms of the design standards and accessory buildings coming over. We didn't talk too much about basic we talked about adding some landscaping requirements. Right now, we just say, hey, bring your landscape plan in
Parking,
and parking, those things.
surface.
We talked about, I just don't know where to start unless I bring you something to respond to, you know what I mean? Say, hey, here's my first look at this, what do you think?
It's tweaking of what we have
Right.
based on what's been happening.
Jim, are you concerned that Sean doesn't have enough direction, or are you concerned, well, maybe I can put it this way, Sean, if you don't feel you have direction, by all means, come in, don't spend a lot of time
Like
writing
I've
something.
been through enough
but-
projects with the Plan Commission and Board where I kind of know what your thoughts are on a lot of things, and so I'm not going to go away in one direction or the other. I'm going to go based on what we've heard and
My
we've
concern was I didn't want you to spend a lot of time, which means money to us,
right,
right? For something that might be a different direction than we want you to go.
okay.
So however you can figure out how to,
I mean, I guess we could do it. We could go through that list again. I don't necessarily want to do it tonight, but I'm not prepared tonight. But we could go through the whole list, and you could tell me what you're thinking. I mean, it's just a list of the sections of the code. So if we talked about, let's say, landscaping or parking or signage, I just think it might be more productive to bring a draft in and then tweak it from there.
And the problem we had previously when we wrote the zoning code is we were under county zoning, so we had to make county happy. And then we had our architectural control, all our other standing ordinances that we had jurisdiction over. And what Sean's trying to do is bring everything together.
Yeah, like I said, I think I have a sense of what your opinions are on development and design standards and all. I mean, we've been around the block a few times on a few things now, so I don't know.
And I think we talked about this before, Sean, but it would probably be a good idea to get some examples of other communities in the area, of what they're doing in those areas.
Well, that's what I'm certainly going to use
Yeah, okay.
as a basis.
part of your review
As part of as a basis.
recommendation.
But I'm not looking to go
Yeah,
in one direction
right.
or the other too far. I'm trying to keep it kind of where it is, but just add some basic standards that we can use. So if I'm pulling all kinds of examples in, then that's like complete rewrite
Yeah.
of what we have.
Just problem areas that we need
That's the focus.
correct.
Yeah.
I do agree with it's easier to talk about something if you got something to refer to,
Yeah.
you know. So from that logic, I understand.
Right.
as long as you feel comfortable enough.
I do. If I don't, if I'm thinking about something, and I think I need more direction, we'll just bring it back and get before I go further, you know, or I'll progress on the ones that are easy enough, and I won't progress on the ones where I need some more input on.
Right, because basically, when you're happy, then we have to set the public hearing, and
Right.
the public's gonna make comments on it, and
Probably. Maybe. Depends how
Maybe
much
if you
interest
didn't
there
show
is.
up.
Right. That's right.
Or
I
if
mean,
there's 2 or 3 different ways to go, you can say, well.
yes,
we'll
here's
get it to
here's a
this pot,
section,
here's
consider
pot,
this.
Get
yes.
it to here. There's 2 or 3 different ways to approach it from here. Here's what the other communities might or might do. Which way do you want to go?
What I'll probably do for a lot of things is quantitative things, like where there's a number involved. I might leave some blanks and then bring it back and say, hey, here's a range. What
Or a
you know,
range.
typical is a range between this and this based on other communities. What do you want to do?
but it's so nice to have a zoning code that's comprehensive, that takes our ordinances that are piecemealed all into one.
Right. It was piecemeal because we had to protect
Right.
ourselves when we were in a county zoning.
Right.
But now that we're a village, a mighty village.
So I'll start on it, and if I have some issues, I'll just bring it right back.
Sounds good.
Okay, I know we did have one discussion about a zoning change or ordinance change regarding amusement devices, but I think that's
That's not zoning, though. I think
that's just,
something else.
right, that's,
Right. And then Sean, did you hear anything from the county on the comp plan when they're starting theirs?
The
'Cause
the last I talked to Jason Fruth, who was the planning and zoning manager at the county, it was loose. They were talking sometime they were going to get started in 2022. They're looking for buy-in from communities, and we talked about that. You know, they do a lot of the legwork in terms of providing the background data for the whole county, including the village of Vernon, in terms of all the demographic data and all that stuff. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. I think we should piggyback on that and develop our plan based on that. And we should probably involved in, you know, they're going to ask us if we want to be part of meetings and things like that. We probably should, you know, at least be somewhat involved in those meetings for the county. You know, they don't control our land use. They don't get to tell us what we do for our land use. They have no say over that, but they'll be looking for feedback from us on the county as a whole, and you know, I think we should do that. But again, I have not heard. They don't have a definite timeline at this point, so we still don't even know when census data is coming out. I mean,
It's
there's
out,
little bits of it's out, but not.
I can show you
not
that.
comprehensive. Not everything's out.
as far as land use,
Not all the demographic and data is out yet.
demographics in regards to population.
Yeah, I mean, it's broken. There's some basic population data that's out.
Oh, I've got some good stuff I should give you my redistricting maps.
Okay. Yeah,
'Cause-
I haven't.
'cause
I
we
have not
dropped-
looked.
We lost almost 200 residents.
Right. But what I'm saying is the full breakdown of all the categories are not all out yet. We can talk about that later.
Okay, that sounds good. That's all I have.
okay. So it was on the agenda just to get an update, so.
Yep.
And it's helpful. And if we need to, you know, have it standing on the
Yeah, so-
agenda, you know,
It looks like we're not going to have a November Plan Commission meeting.
No, we will not.
So we'll probably bring it back in December to talk about it.
We got this printout on chapter 112, amusement parlors.
And initially we thought we were going to talk about it in zoning, but it doesn't have anything to do with, that doesn't, right.
Okay.
You're right. It's an ordinance issue, but it's not a zoning
Right.
issue.
right,
So you can put that one away.
for now.
File it.
Yeah. Other questions for Sean? We're moving along. We'll make it a priority or put it on our municipal business plan, if you will, municipal plan for 2022 to get this done. The ordinance and the,
Right, and if it helps Sean do the comp plan by using the county's data,
Well, here,
Save us money.
it's going to
Oh,
be
yeah.
it's going to be very expensive to start from scratch on your own.
right,
You know, because
Oh,
all the
that's
new
terrible.
census data, everything to reevaluate, it's not. And there's yes, we're a village now, but there is no pressing issue for us to reinvent the comp plan right now. Right?
the only issue would be if that development that's close to the village of McGuanago would come forward.
Yeah, but we can amend our map
Right,
regardless.
absolutely,
So what I'm saying is that there's no pressing issue for us to just.
Yeah.
We're a village now. We need a new comp plan. It's
Right.
not. You know. I'm not saying we should do that. So.
And there's nothing that says it's gotta be drastically different than what it is right now.
That's right, right. Last
Right.
time we looked at the comp plan, we looked at the areas that were near the village of Big Bend, if you remember, because it was about protecting our borders and looking at different densities and land uses. We didn't look at the rest. There's other areas that,
Right.
that might be up, and so we will get to those areas, but again, it's not immediately
The
present.
western side,
Right.
close to McWanago, just like around the Big Bend, if there's something to the south or the north, whatever.
The New Berlin area.
New Berlin up in the northeast corner, especially between, the properties down National Avenue.
Right. The state requires you to amend your comp plan once every 10 years. And we've done that a couple of years ago, so we're not under the gun for that. I mean, unless someone feels differently that says we need to look at the comp plan right now because there's pressing issues, I'm not too concerned about it. I'm not pushing to do it until it makes sense.
Right, and it makes sense on a census when we get all the data in.
Right. When the county gets their process underway, we can piggyback.
Right. Okay, anything else? We'll move to 7 minutes. I think August 11th was tabled because,
Jim, what it's the language that I had missed in the first minutes in
Right.
regards to when a conditional use permit is issued, that the plan commission is following the revisions, and that's in there now. That whenever a conditional use is being drafted, the plan commission is watching those revisions be developed as they go for final signatures.
right, and Makowsik was in there. He's been amended since then, actually, by the board. He's got his deed restriction, the language in there that was talked about at length.
And he's come in and signed. He's got everything that we needed. He's all, we just need
he's
the president's signature.
Oh,
That
okay.
has to be notarized.
All right. So he's all set then.
He said,
Sean and John signed off?
Sean wrote it, and, yes,
John.
And John.
Okay, all right. Okay, that was that meeting. That was just, that was an
was the
agenda
only
point.
thing that held
That
up.
was the big part of the minutes that was
Right.
held up and had to be fixed up. That's why they were tabled. So, Jim,
Yeah, move to approve.
this is August 11th. Is there a second? Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Now we're on to September 8th, which is Mr. Bruss. He was in. And I think we had one hobby kennel amendment that day.
Yes. Mr. Labatsky?
Oh,
I saw,
That's-
I saw a contract out at his property, so good news. Maybe he's getting
I
it
got him
done.
you
connected.
moving that dog run?
He had to get a contractor to get the cement work done, so he
Oh,
could,
that's right,
yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
That was what the holdup was.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's got it
And he
going.
came in and signed. We just need your signature.
All right.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Jim.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain?
And one abstention because Commissioner Noack
Wasn't
was
here.
absent. Motion carries. And we are,
Motion to adjourn.
is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned, 8:06, I guess it is, or 10, or whatever date, whatever time that is. 8:06. Thank you, gentlemen, lady, woman.